Hello. This is the Universal Mind Channel, episode number 2. I welcome you. Why do we exist? What happens, what really happens when we die? Well, I believe NASA's Webb and Hubble telescopes show us the truth. They've looked back to the dawn of time. They see a lot of things, but two things they don't see. They don't see heaven, and they don't see hell. You know why? Because I don't believe they exist in reality. They exist only in what we create here on earth. It's a state of mind. That's all. What really exists? Well, what really happens when we die? Do we just cease to exist? I don't think so. I think there's another option. This channel, the Universal Mind Channel, is dedicated to exploring that other option. And it's dedicated to serve as a spiritual home for those who share those beliefs. If you have questions, or if you just want to share one of your personal experiences in your spiritual journey, your own spiritual journey, I encourage you to contact us at the Universal Mind Channel at gmail.com. That's the Universal Mind Channel at gmail.com, and we may answer your question on our channel as we present it to the public. What's our subject for today? Well, let me just tease you a little bit about it, and move that. Let's move that to the side a little minute, and go back to episode number 1. Now, if you remember, in episode 1, I told you what happened to me when I was 6 years old. I died. And I recalled for you the experience. It's one of the most amazing experiences. It's the most amazing experience of my life. I've had a few. But to have beings from some other realm, some other dimension contact you and speak to you is an amazing experience. It's changed my life, changed my perception of everything I've experienced. When I was in the hospital, I was totally aware, even though my body was limp as a dish rag and had stopped breathing by the time they got me into the hospital. I can remember the doctor looking at my body and asking my grandfather, how long has it been since he stopped breathing? I also can remember my grandfather lying. My grandfather said, oh, he stopped breathing right before we came through the double doors. Well, that wasn't true. I stopped breathing sometime before that. I don't know how long before, but sometime before that in the car when I was thinking and had thinking communication with a beautiful female presence, beautiful woman. And she had offered me a new life, a better body and a new life. All I had to do was agree to go along with her. And she'd make sure I got a better body next time. That's what she said. Now, when I'm in the hospital, I have another encounter with a male presence who offered me the same thing. If you come along, you've got to decide very quickly. Time's running out. Make up your mind. Do you want to come with us or not? If you come with us, we'll get you a better body for next life. And I said no. As soon as I said no, and I said the reason, why did I say no? I had looked at my parents, because I was leaving. I was, okay, fine. I have to tell you, as a sidelight, I had to struggle to breathe 24/7, 365 for the first 4, 5, 6 years of my life. Anytime in kindergarten, in the beginning of first grade in Phoenix, I go to school, I get sick, go to bronchitis, get pneumonia, double pneumonia. Not fun. to have an elephant sitting on your chest 24/7, 365. And it's an analogy. But I wouldn't wish severe asthma on my worst enemy. I said it when I was a kid, and I still believe it. So I wanted to go. I wanted to leave. But then I looked at my family, and I saw how stricken they were, and how what had happened to me had separated them from themselves and each other. And that's not how I wanted to be remembered, as my death separating them from themselves and each other, blaming themselves and each other for my death. So no, I'm not going. Immediately I'm back in my body. Doctor's putting a hypodermic in my chest, and I'm suddenly, although very weakened and exhausted, I can breathe, and I'm not having any problem breathing anymore. Whatever he gave me, and I believe it was epinephrine, fixed me, at least for that point in time. Now, all that communication between me and these beings that I call guides, telepathy, it wasn't verbal talking. How do I know? Well, in the car, I'm in my mom's lap, she's in the back seat, I'm in her lap, and I'm staring at this woman. And after she begins talking to me, and before I stop breathing, I happen to tell my mom, there's a beautiful woman out there, and she's telling me I can go with her and I don't have to suffer anymore, and I'll get a better body next life. Well, my mom gets hysterical, as you can expect. She starts screaming. She goes, she went nuts. And I knew she would, but I had to tell her. I told her. And the car goes faster. My grandfather, I could feel the car accelerate. And then I stopped breathing. And it was the greatest experience of my life. And we discussed that in episode number 1. But the process is involved. And if you remember, these guides, these entities, these beings, they didn't talk about any earthly religion. They didn't talk about Jesus. They didn't talk about anybody, any religion. They didn't talk about heaven. They didn't talk about hell. It was very pragmatic, and very pragmatic to the point where they weren't forcing me to go with them. It had to be of my own free will. And apparently they really respect free will. Free will matters to them. They weren't going to force me to go. They didn't take me away. Now, in many cases, in trauma or severe illness, there is no choice. The body decides. But in this case, my body was up for grabs, so to speak. It was dependent upon, what did it depend on? It depended upon how quickly, how soon, how well the doctor diagnosed what was killing me. And I could perceive the doctor in his own mind going through his internal checklist, what he was looking for to find out what kind of drug I needed. And lucky for me, he picked the right one. What enabled that experience to occur? What enabled that experience to occur, I believe, is something that we all share. No matter how old you are, no matter where you're born, what country, what nationality, what religion, we all share what age, what our IQ is. Doesn't matter. We all share this one thing. Maybe we share other things, but of one thing we all share absolutely, definitely, all the time. It's the same thing humans share with every other organism that's alive. Consciousness. What is it? What is consciousness? How is it created? How do we interact with it? Well, if you want to do a deep dive to begin with, I encourage you to take a look at some books. Sorry, don't mean to stutter, but take a look at some books. if you're interested. One that's a good book, Thought as a System by David Bohm, Bohm. The Physics of Consciousness by Evan Harris Walker. The Self-Aware Universe, How Consciousness Creates the Material World by Amit, A-M-I-T, Goswami, Ph.D. And a fourth book, Consciousness Explained. And back in 1991, it was, according to the New York Times, one of the 10 best books of the year. Daniel C. Dennett, D-E-N-N-E-T-T. If you want to do deep dive, those are some books to start with. I'm sure that there are others. What we're going to talk about today is more personal, my personal exploration of what it is and how we interact with it. We've all been in showers, we've all swum in water, I hope. We've all been either in a pool or a lake or a sea or the ocean even. Consciousness is like that. We swim in it. Where does it come from? Where does it come from? Well, where does anything come from that's in this universe? Where does it come from? It comes from the Big Bang, right? Now, at the Big Bang, there were only 3 elements that existed immediately after the Big Bang: hydrogen, helium, and lithium. Hydrogen and helium are metals, the lightest of the metals. I'm sorry, got it backwards. Helium and hydrogen are 2 of the lightest gases. The third element, lithium, is the lightest of the metals. It is extremely a very good, efficient conductor of electricity, current. How do computers transfer data? Through wires, or through cables, or by light, by photoelectric processes, by photons, by radiant energy. So we know that light carries information. We also know that metals, including lithium, especially lithium, because it's such an efficient conductor, allows data to be transferred. Consider this. Immediately after the Big Bang, you've got the shock wave of the Big Bang that is expanding at an unknown speed. Don't know what speed that is. Well, we know what the speed of light is, but light wasn't traveling immediately after the Big Bang. Think about this. Light wasn't traveling. You have the burst of energy. You have that burst. But light couldn't move. Photons weren't moving. Why? For 300,000 years or more, about 300,000 years, light was trapped by the heavy pressure and the extraordinary heat of the plasma of that Big Bang, of that thermonuclear detonation, explosion, upheaval. But light wasn't moving, it was trapped because it was so hot and so pressured, it was trapped. The energies that were created out of the Big Bang went beyond and traveled, called a shock wave, and all the energy that created the shock wave is traveling outward. Hydrogen, helium, lithium are trapped, and the photons that they created, they're trapped. And then as the universe expanded, you've got this space between the edge of the universe and the plasma. And as that expanded, it starts to cool. And as it cooled, photons began to be able to move. And therefore you have light. You have the creation of the first stars. That lithium absorbed those photons. Those photons from the beginning of the universe interacted with all the natural laws, with all the energy matter interactions. And those interactions created the laws of our universe. And those interactions, those laws of the universe, have existed down through time and been transported throughout the universe by photons. And we swim in those. All of creation, all through time, have been immersed in a sea, an ocean of photons ever since the photonic energy was allowed to move, after about 300,000 years after the Big Bang. And it's interesting because the lithium that was part of the Big Bang would have been light enough that it kind of floats on top of the hydrogen and helium plasma, kind of like the skin of a bubble. And inside the bubble is the plasma. And the lithium is this little skin layer on top, absorbing all the photons that contain all the energy. And some of that energy, some of those photons are refracted and reflected away. Not all are absorbed. But through time, through billions and billions of years, that skin of lithium has absorbed an amazing amount. I don't think anybody can predict or calculate the amount of information, amount of photons that lithium layer has absorbed. And we live inside of that. We've existed, everything that has existed, that has occurred after the beginning of the Big Bang has occurred within that bubble. That's contained by that lithium skin that contains photonic energy. And that photonic energy contained data. Now, what do you think consciousness comes from? You and I have the same consciousness. We share it we have the same consciousness everybody else has. Same as Jesus, same as Napoleon, same as Hitler, same as Gandhi, same as Kennedy, same as Nixon. The same consciousness, same as Putin, same as Trump, the same as Biden. Same consciousness. It's a sea that is neutral. And we all, you want to call it, swim in it. Just as everything that's existed all through time has swum in the same sea of raw thought. And we call them photons. Now, consciousness has, I think, layers. You've got that original layer, which is the raw ocean. And another thing to think about, identity. When we're underwater, that ocean is all around us, we're all wet. As we emerge from the ocean, the ocean water drips off of us. You think about that image. When we're inside that ocean, it's the equivalent of having a clear mind, devoid of any personal self-awareness. But the minute we emerge out of that pure ocean, we are exposed to memories, to events, to things in our reactive mind that create our own identity. And as we emerge out of that ocean, we become more ourselves and less the ocean of thought. Just an image that I want to share with you. So you've got that simple awareness from the original creation of the universe and the energy that's contained and refracted and reflected off the lithium layer of the universe. You have the raw data, the natural laws, the interactions that were shared and interchanged with each other in that initial plasma. And then you have individual life. Increasingly more individual experience. And with each experience, you have emotion. And where does the emotion come from? The emotion doesn't come from the universe as such. It's not part of the lithium layer. No, it comes from the limbic system that evolution has created, so that we can have bodies that interact with our environment as efficiently as possible to survive and communicate with each other and ourselves. But that emotion separates us from the neutrality that is that ocean, because that emotion is created from individualized experience. And it's kind of, it's a self-reinforcing process. The more we experience as individuals, the more emotions we have, the more individualistic we perceive ourselves. And thus separate ourselves from the mass ocean and everything that is what some have called unconscious. But that is a misnomer, I believe, to call it unconscious. It's all consciousness. It's just different layers. And then on top of those emotions, which are raw emotions, on a basic level, with life in this physical, material part of the universe, you have past lives. And you have the experiences in your past lives. And you have the emotions of your past lives. But you don't take all your emotions with you from life to life to life. When you die, when we die, much of our memories, certainly the working memories, our daily memories, they're gone. We don't take those with us from one week to the next. But when we go from life to life, the processes within our soul, our individuality, and the physiological processes of the death transfer of the individuality, of personality, separate out those images, I'm sorry, not images, but those memories that create our identities, and separates them from the memories that are not affected or don't affect our personality. In other words, the memories we have that we take with us are only those that pass on our identity. So if you think back in life, what are the memories that made you who you were? There are not many. Think about it. Not your name, not your address, not your phone number, not personal identification. Because they don't go to who you are. What is your emotion about yourself? Why you are motivated to do certain things. What motivates you to do what you do is created within your own limbic system. And it's created for you within your own mind. And it's, again, it's a self-recreating and reinforcing mechanism. The more something good happens, the more you want to repeat it. The more something bad happens, the more you want to do something about it. That's the human condition. But it's driven by the limbic system to try to coordinate our lives with the evolutionary processes. But you don't need all those memories. You only need a few to take with you from life to life to life. Then you have long-term memories of this life as well as your working and daily memories, which are very superficial and they're like dust in the wind. But that's how I see consciousness as a working process. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have comments, please, or questions, please don't hesitate. Contact us at theuniversalmindchannel@gmail.com. That's theuniversalmindchannel@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again. Have a good day.